Rescue Me is the 25th and final episode of the third season of Cheers, and it's a great episode, but it's bittersweet for, well, one main reason. There will be huge spoilers from now as I discuss various aspects of this episode, and honestly, I'm not in the best mood. Usually, when I watch Cheers, on most occasions, I will come away from the episode feeling overjoyed and full of life, and not because the episode is bad. That's not really how I'm feeling at the moment. And this is because I know what's to come. But again, it's not that the episode is bad, it's just that there are quite a few things here that are bittersweet. And the main thing is that we have a very awkward situation between Sam and Diane and Frasier. There are a lot of changes to come, but the other reason is that this is the last Coach episode. And I don't know if I knew this the first time I watched this season. I imagine not. I probably only found out when I went to watch season 4 that that was, the end of Coach as a character, because unfortunately Nicholas Colasanto passed away and he's only in the cold open, and that's it. That's all we get. But it is a really great scene where somebody is at Cheers and it's somebody Coach apparently knows, and this character called Dan Corelli gives Coach some clues to try and work out who he is. It's a character played by James V. Christy. It's somebody Coach knows from his baseball days, and typical Coach thought that Corelli was actually blind when he isn't, and it's just a really great performance from Coach. It's a lovely moment between Coach and Carla, and I had to use that as the thumbnail for this video because it's the last. It's the last we get of Coach, and knowing that meant that I wasn't in the happiest of moods watching this. I also don't think it's one of the funniest episodes, but it is definitely one of the most important in shaping the future of the show and certain characters. So, of course, I will get into that in more detail from now, but I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge that this is the last we saw of Coach, and it's a shame that he wasn't in it very much. It's actually on IMDb, his appearance is credited as being from archive footage. And if that's the case, if this is an open they maybe filmed for a previous episode or footage they didn't use, but they decided to include it in this one so that Colasanto could be in the season finale, I think that's a really beautiful thing that they did. So, the rest of the episode focuses on the fact that Frasier has proposed to Diane. They enter this restaurant that's usually really popular, but the chef has died, and it's not the happiest atmosphere. And Diane is kind of shocked when Frasier proposes. She certainly wasn't expecting it. I think she had a very believable response, and her instinct is to phone Sam. And while Sam believes, or at least he says, that she was only phoning to gloat, the gang at Cheers believe rightly that she was phoning to get him to talk her out of it, because Frasier wants them to get married tomorrow, which is never a good idea. I don't think anybody should propose having planned the ceremony for the following day. It's not the smartest move. But nevertheless, Diane is thinking about going through with it. She phones Sam, and we have this wonderful split screen. And after the phone call is over, they put the phones down, and the split screen lingers for a beat, where we just see Sam and Diane separate but kind of similar responses to what might be their last phone call while Diane is not married. And it was a very telling moment, I think. And then it cuts to the wedding. This was very cleverly done. Also, I want to point out I love Diane's outfit. I thought she looked fabulous. The wedding is interrupted by Sam, who rushes to this venue and calls out to Diane, and it seems really real. And then as it progresses, and Diane starts to say really ludicrous things about how Sam can date other women as long as she has his love, I think the penny starts to drop at that point that this isn't real. And then, of course, cuts back to Cheers, and Sam has been in a daydream. And that is, of course, very, very telling that this is what he wants. He then talks to the rest of the gang at Cheers, Carla, Norm, and Cliff, and they all have very different thoughts about this. But ultimately, Sam realizes that he has to go to Italy. He has to stop the wedding. Is that a smart decision? Well, one would think not. But then cut to Diane in a phone booth pretending to phone her mother when in actual fact she's phoning Sam. And this is her last attempt to get Sam to talk her out of this. And it's a very inconvenient moment because she wants Sam to be on a plane going to Italy. And basically, if she speaks to Sam, it means he's still at Cheers. He's not interested in chasing after her. She's going to go through with it. And unfortunately for Diane, Sam's new answer machine picks up. But at the beginning of the episode, we actually saw Sam recording it and doing that thing where he says, "Hi, it's Sam Malone," waits a second to trick the caller into thinking he's picked up rather than it being an answer message. And of course, Diane just hears that, assumes it's Sam at Cheers, not being aware of his new answer machine, and she thinks he hasn't gone after her. And the last thing we see is Sam on an airplane, obviously going to Italy. And it's such a frustrating end to the season because everybody, I can only imagine everybody watching this would be desperate to find out what happens next. And that's cruel. It's incredible, but it's cruel. Of course, it's 2024. I know what happens next, but when I first watched this, I did obviously immediately watch the next episode because I absolutely had to find out what happened next. And it's so cruel. The agony of having to wait for season 4 to be broadcast at the time would have been painful. But it's certainly a very, very powerful way to end the third season. And I'll say no more about that because just in case you haven't seen the first episode of season 4 or any other future episodes, I don't want to spoil things to come. But all I will say is that anything could happen at this point, and it's bittersweet because it is an amazing, very intense episode. It's not very funny. I think there's a lot of darkness and uncertainty in this episode. For me, the two funniest moments were Coach at the beginning, and also, I haven't mentioned this, but Cliff's creepy phone call, also at the beginning. I think it's actually the first scene we see after the intro, where Cliff is talking about having phoned Vera's cousin Natalie, who rejected him, and we learn it's because he did this creepy phone voice, and it was just eerie and not a phone call you'd want to receive. That was pretty funny as well. Other than that, I don't think it was very funny, but not in a bad way, not as a criticism. I think it's meant to be a very emotional, very heavy episode, and this is really important for sitcoms to prove that they're deeper than just fluff. And obviously, to end a season this way is very powerful and very effective. And while I know what's coming, I cannot wait still. Well, I cannot wait to get to season 4, but very sad to be leaving Coach and Nicholas Colasanto behind. Thankfully, it's not the last time I'm going to be watching seasons 1 to 3 of Cheers, so I can enjoy lots more Coach again and again. But certainly still looking forward to rewatching and discussing the next episode. Rescue Me is certainly very interesting.